Hey guys, welcome to Pinkbike. I'm Dario. Today we're talking about the new SRAM Maven brakes. This should be an easy one. They're just the strongest brakes they've ever made, full stop. There are a lot of numbers behind the Mavens, and I'm gonna get into those later, but the broad picture is these are the strongest brakes in SRAM's lineup now. They're gonna be the choice for the biggest bikes, e-bikes, gnarly descents, steep stuff, featurey trails. Just if you want the most power, these are the ones. The most direct comparison we can make with the Mavens is to SRAM's own brake, the Code. That's been a tried and true piece in their lineup for a long time. We see them on all sorts of bikes, from trail bikes to downhill race bikes. You have a question?
Are the codes going away?
The codes are not going away. The codes are here to stay. They're just getting a demerit in the lineup because these are stronger. Obviously, there's more power on tap with the Mavens, but they've also tried to reduce the lever force it takes to get to that power. We'll talk about it a bit in the ride impressions, but I find the lever feel to be identical to the Code, maybe even like a little firmer feeling, but to get max power, max stopping force, you are pulling less on the brake. The absolutely gigantic caliper on the Maven is meant to house 4 very big pistons. They're a lot bigger than the ones on the Code. Basically, they made them as big as possible. You know, it's just more force on the rotor. The knock-on effect of having a really big caliper is you have a really high thermal mass. I studied architecture, and thermal mass is all about like retaining the solar energy from the sun, making sure you don't lose too much heat inside the building, and it's not that different with brakes. You know, we tend to think of brakes as like if they heat up, that's a problem, but SRAM is kind of flipping that and applying the heat as a benefit. Like their thinking on this is that like a brake that stays at operating temperature is going to be better for more of the descent. And I've found that to be true. Like they don't cool as quickly as other things that are meant to cool, but because of that, they're like always consistent feeling. You'll notice there are 4 big old bolts holding it together, and that's just to keep things tight. With this much leverage on the fluid system in there, they really needed a lot of, I don't know, squeezing force to keep them from splitting apart. I'm sure there's some engineers out there who are screaming, but basically it's just make them stiff. The one element you can't see on the outside of the brakes is the fluid they use, and SRAM has moved away from dot fluid with the Mavens. They're now using mineral oil. The reason that they're using mineral oil is because they said they chose to. I don't know why else. They have a long service interval. I think there's probably some science behind that with like why the mineral oil in this specific brake is lasting longer than dot fluid would. Historically, SRAM has claimed that dot fluid was like a higher performance fluid for their braking systems, but I'm guessing that in this case, they were able to like optimize mineral oil to work best with this system. The one caveat to this is they absolutely do not recommend big danger. Do not recommend using other mineral oils. I think they've formulated their specific juice to work just with their seals. I've been strongly cautioned to not use all the Shimano mineral oil I have sitting in my garage. So SRAM has been touting the tuning story behind the new Maven brake system. And the thought behind that is that supposedly having the strongest brake in the world isn't enough. You have to be able to like take some of that power away in certain circumstances. And I can see the rationale behind that. I've been thinking of the tuning concept with these brakes as kind of like tuning skis or detuning skis. Like you don't always want the sharpest edge on your ski. Sometimes you want to like grind that down a little bit. Maybe you're not the gnarliest ski racer hitting icy lines and trying to carry the most speed. You want to be able to like push a little bit through it. And the same goes with the brakes. You don't always want the grabbiest, strongest, sharpest feeling brake out there. Sometimes you need a little bit of a buffer. SRAM is providing that tuning concept with different rotor size, rotor thickness, and pad material combinations.
How is that different than like...
It's the same as before, but it's marketing. But in this case, it makes sense. Like with a Code, like just want to make them the strongest they could be with any brake, really. Like, you'd run them with the biggest rotors you could or with the grabbiest pads you could, but with these, like, I have definitely gone too far. SRAM is recommending you start gently, just a pinky, by installing the smallest rotor you can fit on your frame. So maybe that's a 180, maybe it's even a 160. The idea is that with each 20 millimeter increment jump in rotor size, you get 14% more mechanical advantage, which means a whole lot more power at the wheel. Models, simple. We got options. The Mavens don't only come in Eddie Van Halen splatter paint red, they also come in black and silver. There are 3 different trim options for the Maven. You've got the Ultimate, the Silver, and the Bronze. The Ultimates, they're the nicest brakes in the lineup. $300 per wheel. You've got titanium caliper hardware, forged aluminum lever blades. You got the contact adjust, the little scrolly wheel, reach adjust. Silver, that's got stainless steel caliper hardware, so it's slightly heavier. It has forged aluminum lever blades, contact adjust, and reach adjust. Principally the same. Now, the Bronze brakes, $185 per wheel. Cheapest option, stainless steel caliper bolts, no contact adjust, and stamped aluminum lever. Yes, Max?
Does contact adjust matter?
Contact adjust matters to some. I think it's a good way of keeping the brake feel consistent as the pads wear. I think it confuses people as well. You're like, what does this do? And you kind of mess with it and you don't notice a tremendous difference. If you like carefully do it, you'll notice a difference. I would recommend that anyone out there with SRAM brakes that has that little wheel, learn what it does. You might be happier. But with the Mavens, I've noticed I'm running my levers way further in than I was with codes. I think so that I'm not like accidentally stabbing the brakes as much, because they're quite strong. You can like really lose things. So I'm like running them quite far in. Contact adjust is pretty far in as well. So that there's like a lot of free throw into the brake. I've also noticed that they bite more consistently that way. Which is a good segue into me talking about my ride thoughts on these, Max. Thank you for that. They're really strong. Surprise. They are significantly stronger feeling than a code. I would put them on par or stronger than the TRP DHR Evo, the Hayes Dominions. I have not personally ridden the Trick Stuff Direttisimas, but those who have say they are similar. The Hope Tech 4 V4 is an equivalent brake as well. Apparently SRAM did a bunch of benchmark testing. We're not privy to that data, so maybe they're stronger. We're gonna try to figure out a little bro science test. So stay tuned for that and we'll see which one is the strongest. But for now, suffice to say, they're really strong. I do like that you can kind of modulate that strength with the different rotor pad, rotor size combinations. For me, I'm pretty happy running metal pads and 200 mil rotors, HS2s, but that might be too much power for some circumstances. I think like when you're like really in gnarly terrain and you're having a harder time controlling your body and the bike, the brakes are so powerful you can like almost over brake and like kind of mess yourself up. So maybe I should detune a little bit, try organic pads again and see if that is a better balance. That's the broad overview of the new SRAM Maven, but if you really want the full picture, head over to the website, pinkbike.com. You'll have the whole review. You got my thoughts and Mike Kasimer's on these hot new brakes. If you think that there is such a thing as too strong of a brake, let us know in the comments. I am genuinely curious to see if people think that we're like approaching that yet. I don't personally, but maybe we are. If you want more hot braking content, subscribe to Pinkbike on YouTube and head over to the website for more reviews.